Hi, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining me on today's interview. Could you please start off by introducing yourself?
Hey, Jane, thanks for having me. So I'm Natalie. I am an artist. The way I would describe my work is surreal expressions of human experiences and experiments with perception. And yeah, I've been practicing for 4 years in Toronto, and I've been growing and learning, and just recently starting a business and starting to sell my work and learning about those different processes. But for up until this point, it has mostly been my creative development, my personal development that has been essential to even creating an artistic practice, because you can't have the business without the product, the creative work, right? And it's been very important that it's authentic and original to me. So that has been my journey for the past 4 years, all about that.
So let me clarify.
Yeah.
You've been practicing 4 years. So how many of those years were you doing artistic development and then business development?
So I would say that, the first 2 years I was in school,
Okay.
and I was 100% fully involved in developing my style, developing skill sets, techniques, acquiring mentors, making networks. But so at least that, and then maybe another year. So 3 years, I would say, have been really development focused. And I would say that I'm always going to be development focused, because process is very important for me. Being contemporary and competitive is important to me. And I always want to challenge myself. So that's a very important part of my continual practice. And so this year, I started being more focused on business, learning more about marketing, promoting myself, creating product out of my artwork, and talking to people. And even just talking about my work has been very awkward from the beginning. Understanding what it is I'm doing in the first place is hard. And you can't, and business and uncertainty like that, it's just so awkward, right? So balancing the two have been a challenge this year.
So business skills don't always come naturally. How have you been developing yours?
And somebody mentioned, I have like no business background, no knowledge, nobody in my family, no network, like nothing. So like, because I studied with you in McMaster, we did sciences, right? Like I did earth and environmental sciences, and then I moved into fine arts later, right? And so I never had that formal training. So this year, how am I doing that? So I'm looking at role models. I'm looking at people in my field already who have established their practices, and looking at what they are doing to create success for themselves, or they have been doing for 30, 40 years, right? So it's definitely a lot of mentorship and looking out and seeing what other people who are doing something similar to what I'm doing, how they are generating business success.
And what have you learned so far?
How have I, or what have I learned?
What have you learned?
So if you want to be a very independent artist, that's the key, right? Because you could go the traditional route, and yeah, I might still try that as well. Like I want to try everything because I want to make my dreams come true, right? I want this to be a lifelong career. So yeah, traditional art would be galleries, right?
Yeah,
gallery representation, right?
That's right.
I want to see if I can do it independently and how that would look like. So what that looks like is knowing how to market and how to use social media platforms to create a funnel into your business, and it could be like generating like leads and emails and staying and nurturing those relationships with people, and trying to grow that essentially. So, but learning how to use social media to your advantage, and that's kind of where I'm still learning. And it's been difficult with this pandemic, right? In person was one of the best ways to show and to experience or and to engage with people, right? Like it's so awkward to show a photo of a piece of artwork and for a person to really resonate with it, and especially with the competition that social media has, like between other images, right? So yeah, that's been awkward, and I've been just learning how other artists are doing it, how they're mocking up their images, how they're talking about their works, how they're choosing to create those ads and marketing strategies. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, especially somebody who's just kind of anxious about it and learning for the first time in my life. Yeah, still a lot to go.
So what kind of channels are you exploring in terms of, speaking to people who might be interested in your art, and what have you found to be most effective for you?
Well, my personal network has been the most effective. Number one is the people who have been supporting me. Even 4 years ago, the networks I've made, the creative communities, they really like to support each other, and I so appreciate that. So yeah, it's mostly been my network, and then trying to reach followers who are similar, who also appreciate art, but also in person has been very effective. Like once somebody meets you, they get that true impression of you, and you start to establish like a relationship, a bond, and then you can continue that through social media. But if you're just like meeting people through social media, there's still this kind of like distance. They don't get my vibe, they don't know who I am, or they just see my work. And that would be awesome if they just resonate with my work firsthand, and I can get people interested that way. But I found that in person has been the most effective way for me, especially being so like extroverted.
Yeah, I wonder, actually, this is interesting because most people are selling virtually, or, they're doing a lot of things online. But I never thought about this for people who are more extroverted. Does that just come a little bit more difficult compared to just doing in-person markets or meeting people, on site?
To do it online being more difficult
Yeah.
because I'm extrovert. I would say it's also an experience. Like I'm still learning to navigate that right now. So yeah, I mean, I love to talk to people, right? And an in-person is the most valuable, and not just it's most meaningful to me. So just like I'm not in my practice, like I'm not just seeking to sell my work and to make money. That's not my number one priority. I know that's the number one priority of a business, but for me, the creative practice is to express myself and connect deeply to people, right? How can I do that through text and through social media? That's not easy. But I'm learning, so maybe I'll figure it out next year how to do it better online.
I'm curious about how you define success, and I want you to divide that into two sections.
I will.
The first is, obviously the financial, the business side, but the second is as an artist. So how do you define success for each?
Yeah. So yeah, that's so important. It's been part of my personal development journey. So success for me as an artist, it comes from within.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it has to. If you don't like love what you're doing, and you're not creating wonder and magic within yourself while you're creating the works, then how are you going to pull through with creating a career out of it? My God, this is one of the hardest things to do, to be financially successful in. So you have to have like a really deep meaning behind it, pulling you forward. So yeah, success for me looks more like if I have learned, and the mini successes, I look at the small things too. Like if I've learned a new technique, or if I have come to a certain realization, or about elements, about aesthetic, about meaning, about relationships in the artwork, right? So, and I have mentors, I have peers, and I'm constantly speaking to them and generating feedback and making improvements in my work at the same time. And so that has just been a huge way for me to grow myself and my practice. And it's a system, and it's very necessary. And without it, like when I mentioned to you before earlier, like I was at home alone with nobody trying to do art.
Yeah.
And it was excruciating.
Yeah.
It was just like, I have nobody to bounce my ideas and feedback off of. I'm not even sure if what I'm seeing is and perceiving is like what I should be. You know, it's just I need to have feedback from other people and another set of eyes to give me a different perspective so that I can see the whole picture of what it is I am creating.
Right.
So this whole system of personal growth that I've been able to develop is incredibly satisfying, meaningful, and it is my way to feeling successful, like deeply. It's just more from a spiritual perspective, I guess. And that is giving me my vitality. That is pushing me forward in all of this. So that is the creative success that I've sculpted for myself. But the business success, it's separate. And at the beginning, you know, it's small, like milestones, small, like, you know, steps, right? So the first one was like, can I even sell a piece? Even one, just one, right? Like, will anybody care to buy a piece of my work to put it on in their home or to collect it? Like, does it even matter, right? That was like 2 years ago, right? That's the kind of person I was. And I was so timid. I was so shy. You know, this is so interesting because like, I was so shy. I could not sell my work at that time. I was just like, oh, like my work, like maybe somebody will like it. I don't know. I don't really know what it's about. Like, I just thought like, I don't know, like I was just so shy. It wasn't a priority to sell, but it was absolutely amazing idea if somebody did sell. Like it was just such a wow feeling, right? And so that was the milestone and the step back then. Now it's more, I'm pushing more in that domain, trying to understand more what it is people like, why they like it, how people perceive things. That's always been very interesting to me. And like, still trying to be authentic with my practice, but also just taking that information and just like, oh, this is what people enjoy and like and perceive. Maybe I'll do a little bit more of that. Maybe I'll test this idea, test that, still keep with my practice, but, you know, just from the business side, see how people respond. And it's just constantly prototyping, iterating, testing, and like just testing that market response. So, and I don't know what has been success. It's just every time somebody buys something, I learn something new. And I get to improve my practice. And I just want to continue iterating until that gets more and more, better and better. It's not like a traditional business approach by any means, but it's the creative, I don't know, direction and the creative part that is a priority to me.
What do you mean by traditional business approach? It sounds like what you're doing is what business would do.
I guess so, but like, so when I talk more to business minded people, they always have like a business plan and business strategy, and everything is just so
structured,
and it's like, oh, look at what your competitors are doing, look at what they're doing, and do exactly that. And then even from the idea of the product, right, the like, and that's where it's like, oh no, red flags for me, because very big red flags as a creative, as an artist, because I'm like, oh shit, like, sorry, I'm trying to differentiate myself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be original and authentic. And if I start letting like those ideas in, because, you know, as a part of my practice, I liberate myself creatively. I open myself up to something called like freestyle drawing, automatism. So I'm going in from my subconscious, my intuition, to create concepts. And so if I start to think like, oh, I should do something like that artist. Well, then now that like that seed has been planted for the conception of my work, that is like for
Yeah.
me dangerous in terms of authenticity and originality. I don't want to get caught up in those games. I don't want to copy anybody. I want to
Yeah.
be like, creating my practice and growing it just from me, right? Of
Yeah.
course, like I'm taking ideas from the world, but those are like elements of
Got it.
execution in later stages, not the conception of the ideas, and not usually at least. So yeah, so in terms of like traditional business, it's kind of scary when I think of, oh, look at what that person is doing, look at what this person is doing, and then copy and or make it better. And because I want to do things originally, I want to do them differently, I want to be open to that. And I don't know, it's just spiritually or creatively like a little red flag.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think people probably are not doing enough to focus on their customers. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
best way to put it. So
So
I think,
yeah.
What you're talking about is very much a lot of analysis, but
Mhm.
if they don't start from, have you talked to your customers? What have you learned from them? What have they told you? And then from there, you can go, okay, what are some other competitors to look at and understand what's good and what's not working? I think that's helpful. But if you're being told to copy something because it's done and it looks like it will succeed, it doesn't mean it always serve you. And I think,
Yeah.
You're listening to your intuition, and I think it's telling you something useful here. Really important. Yeah.
Yeah, customer feedback is important, and like it's very easy to digest customer feedback if it's like about, let's say, maybe the size or the type of product or yeah, but like if it starts to be like, oh, about your style, about
Yeah.
your aesthetic, then it's like, okay, well, if it's just about this, if it's about the style, well, maybe you just don't like the style, right? But you
That's
need to
right.
know at a certain point where it's actually generally not appealing, and you need to get some aesthetic and creative growth.
Yeah.
So like defining that line and the boundaries and understanding the differences between the two is important. Yeah.
Interesting. That's very, so it's kind of trying to understand, what's useful, what's not useful in terms of feedback.
Yeah,
It must be, yeah.
Because at the, like my aesthetic and my style, it's me, and I cannot control how people are going to receive it entirely.
That's right.
Like different people have different responses and reactions, and that's why I'm trying to find my niche audience, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so I need to stay true. Like the only thing consistent here is me and my taste.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can work on and continue to develop.
Yeah.
Right. So there's parts of it that I can't control.
Yeah.
And I just need to separate.
So we have to wrap up here real soon.
Yeah, sure.
Time flew by.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So last question for you is, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, it's spiritually fulfilling. Like I feel that when I indulge in these practices, I have sort of moments of clarity or realizations and moments of just awe and beauty and bliss. The practice, the process is incredibly fulfilling, right? And I love that. I love engaging with it. I love having my community and my system to continue my personal development, but also like try to create the greatest thing I can possibly create, like for myself and to share, and I hope that I can share beautiful things with the world. And these ideas just give me my vitality and reason for continuing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Natalie.
No problem.